So ever wonder if Finland is really the land of the endless saunas and happy smiles? After 34 years living here and helping dozens of newcomers relocate to Finland stress-free, I've learned it's full the good, the bad and the ugly. So I'm going to show you today what life is actually like, from the real pros and pitfalls to the truths nobody tells you, and how to decide if Finland is actually for you. To start, let me show how costs of living and taxes can make or break your everyday life in Finland. So paying Finnish taxes is a bit like stepping into a hot sauna. Intense at first, but over time you learn to breathe through it and even appreciate what it gives back. So what do you actually get for your money and what do you give up? Let's look at the pros. You can live comfortably. So according to the cost of living plus rent index of 2025 from numbeo.com, Finland is ranked 27th, behind countries like Germany, the Netherlands and the US. So while it's not the cheapest, you'll get a solid standard of living. Even with recent price hikes, good spending habits go a long way. Your tax money works for you. Free education, affordable healthcare, public transport, all funded by taxes. For example, I got my bachelor and master's for free. So not bad. But what about the cons then? Well, relatively high taxes. So income tax in Finland is progressive. The more you earn, the more you pay. VAT, the value added tax, has also just jumped from 24% to 25.5%. There are also high sin taxes like tobacco and alcohol that make them expensive. But if you don't use them, then you do avoid this entirely. And relatively high cost of living. For some, especially depending where you come from, costs can feel high and hard to build wealth through employment. Unless you're in sales, a breakout startup, or start your own business, high taxes cap your take-home income. For example, in one of my past jobs, I had a few five-figure gross income months, but my net pay after taxes was less impressive. Not always competitive salaries. So compared to countries like the US, the Germany, the Netherlands, Finnish salaries aren't always as high. Still, some expats find the trade-off worth for the lifestyle and security. So bottom line, Finland isn't the place to get rich quick, but if you value stability, social benefits and a comfortable life, the tax bill is just part of the package. And by the way, if you're moving to Finland and want to do it stress-free, click the link in the description. And speaking of work, can you have a great career in Finland or will you just struggle? So work life in Finland is like wandering a quiet forest trail where you can pause and enjoy the scenery. And countries like America, it's more like running on a treadmill, non-stop performance focus, and you're expected to keep up the pace no matter how tired you get. So for example, my client Anna was surprised when her boss told her to stop checking email after 5 p.m. WTF, welcome to Finland. What does this mean for your work life? Let's look at the pros. Well, we have a good work-life balance. People work from 8 to 6 or 9 to 5, and when it reaches 4 or 5, you're done. You're not expected to work overtime, answer calls or emails outside the working hours. Good employee rights. Everyone gets 2 or 2.5 days paid vacation per month. This means you get around 4 weeks of paid holiday per year. We also got labor unions to help with work contracts or problems at work. And some jobs even use collective labor agreements, which have even better work terms for employees. Paid parental leave. You can have up to 6 months of paid parental leave per parent. Great for families. And work dynamics. At work, you're expected to work and you do your tasks without constant supervision. If you need help, you just ask. And flat hierarchies. You don't need to use titles with co-workers or supervisors. You simply use first names. Moi Matti. Matti is a Finnish name. But what about cons? Well, legalization requirements. Some professions require your foreign degree to be officially recognized, such as nurses or doctors, and your foreign degrees isn't just enough. There is a risk that you have to re-educate or even learn an entirely new profession in Finland. Struggle for the unemployed. At the moment, there are lots of unemployed in Finland, including Finns. And if you don't have the skills or the network, finding work will be an uphill battle. Worsened permit requirements. So the current government made a law change that if you get fired, you need to find a new job within 3 months or 6 months if you are a specialist. Otherwise, you will get deported. However, with the new elections coming up next year, this could be reversed. No one knows. Language requirements. Unfortunately, one of the key problems is the language barrier. Many jobs, especially customer-facing roles, require often good Finnish skills, which are not easy to achieve. However, fields such as IT do not require Finnish because the companies operate in English. So the bottom line, if you land a job in Finland before you move, you'll enjoy one of the best work-life balances in the world. But if you arrive without work, be prepared for a tough search, especially if you don't speak Finnish. And speaking of the language, this can really make or break your life in Finland. I have a friend who moved here from the Macedonia like more than 10 years ago. He did his master's and PhD and now works in academia. And his work language is in English. He is also married to a Finnish woman with a kid. He learned Finnish so that he could achieve the language requirement for the Finnish citizenship, which he eventually got, but now he's completely dropped his Finnish skills. And why is that? So after getting his citizenship, he realized that at work, at home, and even with friends, everyone just spoke English or switched for his sake. So over time, he simply stopped using Finnish because there was no incentive. So what does this mean for you if you're thinking about learning Finnish? Let's look at the pros. Well, helps you integrate. Even learning some basics conversational skills will get you far. And locals will welcome you more, it opens opportunities, and not to mention everyday life will be easy. The Finnish citizenship. Currently, the citizenship requires sufficient Finnish skills, and putting enough effort will yield you the ultimate reward. And also you learn one of the coolest languages. Finnish is a rare language, and knowing it will at least you give some bragging rights. But the cons. Tough to learn. Needless to say, Finnish is tough and takes a lot of time to master. However, I know people who have reached conversational level within 1 or 2 years, so it's definitely possible. Not spoken elsewhere. Learning Finnish is a risky investment because it's not used anywhere else in the world. Minimal incentives. So many speak good English and some Finns switch to English because they think it will be easier for you to communicate. In addition, you'll do completely fine in everyday life without Finnish at all. So aside from the citizenship, there is minimal incentive to learn. So at the bottom line, learning Finnish is a badge of honor and opens doors, but with English so widely spoken, you'll have to decide whether the challenge and the bragging rights are worth it for you. However, in my personal opinion, if you plan to relocate to Finland permanently, learning Finnish is definitely recommended in the long term. So next I'm going to show you the exact thing that will make or break your life in Finland. So I'm currently helping an American family of 4 relocate to Finland. In the first discussions, I asked why Finland? Why they want to move to Finland specifically? So the family had spent years hustling in Texas, late nights, constant pressure, and what they wanted most was a slower pace, even if it meant things to feel boring at some times. So imagine a Saturday where no one expects you to network, hustle, or even chat with strangers at the store. That's normal here. So what does the Finnish everyday vibe and mindset mean to you and for your everyday life? Let's look at the pros. Well, low stress levels. People aren't rushing around trying to outshine each other. Life moves at a comfortable, steady pace, and if you like predictability and even boredom, Finland is perfect for you. No pressure to perform or be social. You're not expected to talk to strangers or attend every social event. Quiet is normal here. And this applies to conversations too. You can be fully yourself. Nobody cares what clothes you wear or what do you do. And that's not the bug, it's a feature. For example, I like to wear shorts until October and no one cares, except my wife sometimes comments on it. You're left alone. So for many, that's peace. You won't be judged or micromanaged in how you live. You can build your own path. But what about the cons? Emotionally flat culture. So if you're used to high fives and big reactions, you might feel like something's missing, even when things are going great. The only time Finns are really excited when Finland wins gold in ice hockey or during Vappu spring celebrations. Hard to feel energized. If you're someone who feeds off other people's energy or emotions, Finland gives you very little back. People settle in rather than strive. So people opt in for comfortable, steady lives rather than taking risks and going big. For example, if you tell someone you're going to start a business, they will be like, you're just gonna lose money, it's not gonna work. And this is a big con for me personally. And in Finnish we have a saying, pessimisti ei pety, which means that a pessimistic person will never get disappointed because they're pessimistic. So the bottom line, if you crave calm, independence and zero pressure to perform, Finland might feel like a paradise. But if you thrive on energy and excitement, it might take some to getting used to. Could you see yourself living this way? However, this next aspect of Finland will keep you lonely in Finland. Or does it? So Finnish people are like hard coconuts, a very hard shelled on the outside and soft delicious milk on the inside. On top of that, some of the coconuts are just simply too high to reach. So if you are hoping to crack into the Finnish social circles, here's what you need to know. Pros. So Finland is designed for introverts. For example, buy groceries using the self-checkout, file taxes on your couch, collect your parcel from the locker boxes, ride a long distance train and activate your ticket using the app and not having to show it to the conductor. Even buy a home from your couch reading the buyer. What did all of these things have in common? You can do all of this without interacting with strangers. Always the best things in Finland happen when you don't have to do it with strangers. Friendships focus more on quality than quantity. So instead of having dozens of BFFs, we just have a couple with the dozen of acquaintances we meet once in a while. Deeper friendships. So if you manage to break through, a Finnish friend might stick with you through the thick and thin, and these friendships run deep. Small talk is not common, but can be seen as a fresh change. So we don't really do small talk here, but when it happens, it can be actually a meaningful way to connect. So don't be afraid to start a conversation. But what about the cons? Difficult to find friends at adult stage. So most friendships are formed in school, university, or childhood. In other words, we fulfill the friendship quota early, don't necessarily seek further relationships or friendships as adults. Lack of icebreaking culture. As mentioned, we are not chatty by nature, but it helps if someone opens the conversation for us. People easily stick to their circles and not necessarily seek out getting acquainted with new people. And I've noticed this especially at weddings many times. And some people don't like foreigners, so these people exist in Finland too. So if you meet them, just ignore them. They don't represent the whole Finland. Extroverted people will be culture shocked, so don't give up if you're extroverted by nature, as some people will find it refreshing, even Finns. So the bottom line, if you're an introvert, you might feel at home right away. But if you thrive on constant social energy, be ready for a challenge and don't give up on being yourself, because some Finns will find your openness refreshing. Which brings us to the next big problem. Will you be safe in Finland? Are you tired with gang fights, muggers, pickpockets, hurricanes, political turmoils disrupting your everyday life? Well, in Finland, it's different. It's normal to see kids commuting to school alone or people jogging at night, something that would be unthinkable in many other countries. But what does this mean for you and your family's safety? Let's look at the pros. General safety is great. It's normal to see kids cycling to school alone or people jogging late at night, things that would be unthinkable in many other countries. Everyday crime is rare, so you don't see muggers, pickpockets, or armed robberies here in the everyday life. Sane driving. The same goes for drivers. Traffic is safe. People don't do road rages and obey traffic rules, and especially respect the pedestrians, which is great. You can trust the authorities. Police are really friendly and down to earth and not corrupt. No direct racism. So while there are some people who don't like foreigners, it's almost always limited to some occasional rude comment, and physical violence is very, I would say, extremely rare. What about cons? Well, occasional drunkards. So it's kind of sad that in Finland the drunk Finns are usually the chatty Finns, the open Finns, and sometimes idiots can be among them. But luckily this is rare, and I would say even single women are safe walking the streets at night if you go to a bar, for example. Completely fine. More drug addicts than before, which is still not too bad, and you only see them in specific areas like in Södertälje and in Helsinki. So the bottom line, Finland is still one of the safest countries in the world, and if you're used to watching your back or annoying scammers and pickpockets, you'll be amazed how relaxed life feels here. Just watch out for the rare chatty Finn after a few drinks, which is scary. Which brings us to the next big problem. What about your children? So let me show what happened when I was a kid. So I grew up in a city called Kokkola and began going to school at the age of 8. The school was around 2.5 kilometers away from home, and guess how I went to school from the start? By bus, by my parents' car, by bicycle on my own. And my parents never worried. I just hopped on my bike and off I went. And it's normal to see kids walking or cycling to school on their own, grabbing a free lunch at school and heading to after school clubs, all without parents having to worry. So what does this mean for you and your family? Let's look at the pros. Safe environment. The general safety of Finland makes it very good to raise kids here. Subsidized daycare. So the tax money funds daycare to make daycare more affordable and accessible for parents. Free school. Same goes for the school, and the fact that school is completely free, including books, meals, and even transportation in some cases. Child benefit and parental leave. Social Security provides tax-free child benefit, lapsilisä in Finnish, to help with everyday expenses, and offers 6 months of paid parental leave per parent. But what about the cons then? Lack of support network. So especially for foreigners, you might not have access to your parents to help with kids. So you might need to seek that help elsewhere. You want to connect with the local parent groups, daycare staff, or community centers to build your own support network. And the public healthcare actually offers inexpensive home service for families with kids, and we actually used this service a couple of weeks ago, which was great. Raising kids isn't cheap, so the Finland's relatively high cost of living will hurt your wallet too. So the bottom line, Finland is one of the safest, most supportive places to raise kids, but be ready to build your own village in your community and budget for the costs. And this brings us to the next big problem. How do you enjoy life here? To prove this, let me share a great analogy I heard from one Italian guy who was comparing Italy and Finland. So he said that Italy is like the uncle who is funny as hell, has interesting stories, but is a bit reckless in his everyday life. And Finland, on the other hand, is like that shy big brother. Not as entertaining, but he'll look out for you and keep you out of trouble. That's Finland. So on Saturday you might go from a morning sauna to an afternoon cross-country ski, then join a local board game club or language cafe in the evening. That's typical Finnish fun. Low-key, but full of small adventures. So what does this mean for you and your life in terms of fun and culture? Pros. There is something for everyone. So if you want to make friends, join a hobby group or try a new activity. This is how Finns connect, and you'll be surprised how welcoming people are once you share an interest. Finnish activities. Finland does offer some unique things such as sauna, ice swimming, cross-country skiing, snowboarding, you name it. Seasonal fun. In spring you can enjoy the Vappu Carnival, in Christmas you can enjoy the Christmas markets, and in the summer you can play golf. And each season offers unique fun. What about the cons? Well, no bustling life. So if you come from any big metropolitan city, you notice that Finland will be boring in comparison. For example, the nightlife here is average at best. Cost of living. While eating out and drinks can be pricey, outdoor adventures like hiking, swimming or skiing are often free or low cost. So the bottom line, if you're looking for wild nights and constant buzz, Finland might feel quiet. But if you enjoy unique activities, cozy hobbies and building deep connections, you'll find your own kind of fun here. And speaking of seasons, this next problem can be soul-crushing for many internationals. So imagine this. You move to Finland in the spring. It is fairly warm and you experience the Vappu Spring Carnival and the very comfortable summer. You notice how outgoing people are. Say to yourself, hey, life is actually pretty good here. Then November hits. Temperatures drop, darkness increases, it starts to snow, and the moodiness of the Finns set in. So in the winter, it's easier to stay at home rather than getting ready for the snowy weather. Yeah, we like to stay indoors. This is Finland at its best and its worst. So spring and summer are very enjoyable, but the winter is cold, dark, and long. So what does this mean for your well-being in Finland? Let's look at the pros. Well, spring and summer are very nice. The summer weather is not hot and not humid, making it very enjoyable. Lots of sunlight during the summer. So due to Finland's geographical location, the summer provides lots of sunlight even during the evenings and even at night. Finns are happy and you don't need to get dressed up when you're going out. Seasonal variety. In the winter you can do cross-country skiing, snowboarding, snowmen and more. And with the right attitude, you can actually make most of each season, even the winter, believe it or not. Gratitude. When it's not summer all the time, we actually learn to appreciate the spring and summer when the time comes. But cons. Winter. Will be cold, will be dark, it will affect the people, mood, the energy. Although it does offer some winter activities as spoken before. Attitude adjustment. Some will have winter blues and tougher times. You'll need to maintain an active lifestyle to make it through the winter. Requires investments. So you'll need proper winter clothing, and also vitamin D supplements and a bright light lamp can be a lifesaver. So the bottom line, for many, Finnish winter is the ultimate test. But with right preparation and mindset and with few good layers, you can survive and maybe even thrive. So are you ready for the darkness, or do you just live for the light? But this next thing can have a huge impact on your health and welfare in Finland. Here's a personal story. When our first son was born, we were really happy, until the doctor told that not everything is right. And our son was diagnosed with Down syndrome, which was not caught in any of the screenings earlier. It was a huge shock at first, but the support we eventually received, monthly disability aid, free speech and physiotherapy, extra daycare resources, made a world of difference. We never felt alone. But how does the Finnish social security and healthcare look for you? Inexpensive healthcare. So Finland's public healthcare system is funded by taxes, which makes the doctor's visits, hospital stays and even prescriptions much cheaper than in other countries. For example, my father's open heart surgery cost 250 euros. Like pennies. Wide variety of social benefits. So if life throws a curveball, illness, injury, unemployment, Finland's social safety net steps in. You'll find everything from sickness allowance to disability support and parental leave, all designed to keep you on your feet. But what about the cons? Potential long waiting times in public healthcare. So while basic healthcare is accessible and affordable, you might find yourself waiting for weeks or even months for non-urgent appointments or specialist care, especially in big cities. For example, my father also had a knee surgery some years ago and had to wait 6 months to get that. Increasing client fees. So recently healthcare costs have gone up, but you're still paying much less than countries in like the US, but don't expect everything to be totally free. Recent cuts in social security. So some benefits such as the unemployment benefits have been reduced and eligibility tightened. You may not get as much support as before. It's still strong compared to many other countries, but it's important to check what you qualify for. So Finland's healthcare and social security systems are a lifesaver when things go wrong and it won't drain your bank account. But if you're young, healthy and rarely need a doctor, you might feel like you're paying for a safety net you don't use in tax money. Still, knowing it's there when you need it, that's a peace of mind money can buy. So is Finland really for you? To conclude, Finland is great for you if you value safety, balance, and stability over chaos and constant hustle. You appreciate quiet moments, personal space, and systems that actually work. You're okay with paying high taxes because you get world-class education, healthcare, and peace of mind in return. You want to raise a family in one of the safest, most supportive countries on earth. You don't need constant sunshine or social buzz to feel fulfilled. You can find happiness in the calm, the order, and in the everyday. But if you're chasing excitement, big salaries, constant sun, or non-stop social life, Finland might not be the one for you. And if you're moving to Finland, your relocation can become a nightmare, but click this how to prevent that.